Again, welcome back to the second video of our series. So before we proceed, the last time in our last video I showing how you can install a virtual device for those who have machines that can support it. So let's come back here to our Chrome or Android website. So if you need to see the requirements for installing emulator in your system based on your machine, so you can simply click on emulator. So I was just we start by searching the Android. So see, let me just show you here. Simply click on our type download. So type download Android Studio, and then you go to their website. Should be Android Studio, that way. Then navigate to their website, click the first link, and then this will open. So the last video I show you how you can download it. So right now I just want to show you how you can download or know which kind of emulator to use on your machine. So simply navigate to this bottom, almost at the bottom, click on download archives, then you agree to the terms again, and by doing so it will open you the current features or the previous features of Android Studio, but you are not interested in this part. I've already discussed about it. Now the next thing we need to know is now this. I forgot to told you or to show you how will you know which kind of emulator to download in your Android Studio. So simply click on download the emulator archive, then simply go to these are all the emulator that you may need for Android emulator. Canary we have for stable and other things, but these are also version of emulator that you may need to download, but you just need to see the requirements. This is the most important part. So simply click on emulator system requirement, and it will show you or it will tell you the requirement that you need. So if you see here, this is the emulator system requirement. As I said before, you need to have a machine that at least it has a higher processing power. So you can see here you have 16 GB of RAM. So make sure your laptop, before even try installing this emulator, you have at least a machine that has 16 GB of RAM, or even more. You can extend those slots. So if you have a machine has 16, you can still go ahead and extend it. At least you have a 32 GB of RAM, or even you can extend it with 8, add up to something around 24 GB of RAM. This will be good for at least good for your machine will be able to process and run emulator without any issues of hanging and other things, freezing the computer, because it's a virtual device, therefore it use a lot of resources. So you need a 16 GB RAM. Your operating system should be 64 bits, not 32. That's another thing to know. On Windows 10 or higher, you can install it on Windows. Mac OS should be 12 or higher. Linux again should be higher. So make sure your Windows has a 64 bits operating system, and then at least make sure you have a disk that with a 16 GB space. By that I mean, if you have a laptop that has 256 or 128 GB of storage, at least make sure you have at least 32 and above free storage, so that the Android Studio will be using that storage for this. So as you can see, you can download, this is also the virtual device that you can download. So at least Pixel 5 most recommended. So you can download this API. At least it run over 98% of users have this device, so you can simply download that. So that's what I wanted to show you. So let's back to Android Studio. So we have shown that we need to download, for those who need to download virtual device, as I said before, you simply click on add. Okay, let me start. So you can see, you simply need to click on device manage. You go to click on this add button here, you click on create new virtual device. If you haven't, you can simply click on create virtual device. You simply click on that, and then at here we saw that you need to at least Pixel 5. So let's go ahead and select Pixel 5. So you simply come here and select Pixel 5. So we'll simply select this pixel 5 image here, and you can simply click on next, and you will see it is 2340 pixel by 1080 pixels, 6.0 inch screen. So you can download this one and it'll be good to go. Once that's done, simply click on finish, click on yes, it will start to download. For me, I'll not use that, so I'll simply cancel because my currently now my laptop doesn't have enough RAM to support the virtual device. So for you, you can allow it. If you have met the requirements, you click on finish, and once done, your virtual device will appear here. So every time you need to run or test your Android or your application, you simply need to select that virtual device, then it will be selected here at the top. Then you simply need to run and it will show you your application. So I'm done with that. Now let's go to something different. So we all have Android Studio installed on our devices, so the next thing we need to know is how to interact with these panels. But let's first do this. Go to the left top, click on this main menu, click on new. Let's first create our new project. Go to new, so go to file, new, then go to new project. And on this new project here, first of all, you need to make sure that the template selected is for phone. We simply create, for these videos we'll be creating application for phone, not for smartwatch, television, or even for cars and other things. We just need to design for phones and tablet, but most of the time it will be for phone. So simply make sure they selected. If yours is select something different, just make sure the template is for phone. And for this part also, make sure you select an empty view activity. This empty view activity, make sure this one is selected. If yours, maybe you select empty activity, you can simply navigate to empty view activity. Once all that achieved, then you can simply click on next, and then here is where you will need to create your application name. Application name, this is the name that will appear on your app. On your virtual devices, you will see this application by that name. On your, for those who are using debugging on their phones for debugging, also this is the name that will appear on your screens when that application is installed on your phone. So you can use any name of your choice, but for me, I'll just use a simple, so I just call it series 1 because this is a Android series. So just let me series 1. Use any name of your choice, feel free to use anything. For me, I'll use that, or I can simply change this to series 1 hello, series 1 maybe, or something like this, hello world, hello world. I'm a hello application. I have some other applications that I have named the same name, so I'm try to avoid the naming collusion. So just let me just use the series, the one I was using before. At least it will be better. Let me just use series 1. Series 1, that way it will be okay. So feel free to name any name of your choice. And also about the package name, make sure you leave this at default. If you have any domain, you can use it, but for you, just leave it the way it is. For mine, it's Colotech, it's understandable, but yours will be something like com.example. That name of your application. So leave it as default. The location path, once you install the Android Studio, this path will automatically be generated by Android Studio, so you can leave as default. Whenever you want to navigate and look for this file or this application here, maybe if you want to open it on Android Studio, you simply go to drive C, then you go to user admin Android Studio, then you find your application. I'll show you in a second, but right now let's just leave as default. Unless you want to store these files on a different folder, you can simply click on this option here and you'll able to select your own path, but for me, I'll leave that way. The language, I'll be using Kotlin. Most of the time we'll be developing this application using Kotlin language, but feel free to use any language of your choice, any programming language of your choice. But for this small project, most of the time we'll be interacting with front end. By that I mean on the design part will be interacting with most, but sometimes you may come up with small project that need backend, so that's where the Kotlin comes in. So always select Kotlin. If you are good in Java, you can go ahead and do that, but for me, again, I'll leave as default. The API is for 24. I'll use an API 24. This will also cover maximum or around 98.6% of users, so sound good. At least 98.6. This means 98.6 users have this, will able to use this application. So it is not restrictable, but as you can see, the more you use a higher API on a different one, let me say I'm using an API 36, you see this will run only it will run on 1% devices. For at least 1% of users will manage to run this application, of which this is not our intended objective. Our objective is to ensure that at least this application you are building will able to cover higher number of users. So always keep that API much lower, at least on 24 or something, at least 27, 28 up. This will cover 93, not bad. You can check 32 will cover 48, too bad. 30, 77, not bad, but feel free, at least it's good, or it's sometimes it's good to leave it as default for now because it's for learning purpose, but later in the future when you're building your own projects based on Android, you can select any API of your choice based on the kind of application you are building. So leave as default. As again, build configuration language is Kotlin, we have selected here. So click on finished and our application will now start to build. Let me close this window. This was my previous application that I was building previously, so I don't need it anymore. Let's now shift to our Android. So let me close this and open this on full screen. So you can see right now our application is building. You can open this by click on this build icon and we will see our application is building based. I mean, what is happening right now is we have created an application name series 1. So this will be our application. This is an hello application. So this application need to install some resources. It need to install, make sure Gradle is built. So Gradle will build all the settings for application or package files and other thing will be installed. So it will take a quite number of minutes or some seconds depending on your processing power of your machine and also on your internet strength. So this, it may vary depend on your situation, but for now let's give it time. It complete installation. Then once done, it will show us a message on build successful and we will proceed. But for the meantime, let's try to understand what exactly all these panels or some of these panel, what are they for. So first of all, we have this project panel here. This is where all our resources, our apps and any other thing, this is the most of the part whereby we'll be interacting most of it, because we'll need to whenever you need to add things like icons, you need to add images, we need to create another layout, we'll be using this panel here. So this is the panel that most of us will be interacting with, and you can see, let it finish and then I'll show you some of the files, but for now let's give it time to complete installation. So the next thing we need to see, this is the another panel. So this panel again, this is where now you'll see you'll be using this for designing our application. So it has two interfaces. So it has an interface for code and also it will have a screen to view. So again, once this is done, I'll be showing, so you can see build as successful. So once that's done, let me show you now. So let me close this for now. Then again, we don't need this window, let's close it again. So for now you can see this is the Android, we have the app level, and within the app level, within the Android, we have the app level and the Gradle script. As I said, this file we will very rarely touch on it. Most of the time we'll be using the app level folder or directory, but for this is just for settings, and I'll show you how. I mean, most of the things maybe we may need to, I'm aware we'll need to interact with this file or this setting for Gradle script, but for now let me show you within the app section. Within the app section directory, we have the manifest directory and we have the Kotlin. For manifest directory, it simply contain the, let me open it, it's an exam file. It contains some of the detail based on our application. So you can see here it contains our application name, of which it is series 1. So this will be the name of application that will appear on our devices when you run this application on a phone. So it contains some information of our application. So we have the series 1, this is the name of application. Also it have some an icon, also it is store information for icon, for both round icon and the rectangle icon or the square icons. So these are basic information about our app, and the most important part is this part known as the activity. So this part activity, this part is where now by you can, most of the time we can modify it based on which XML or which activity page we need to show to our users. So in case maybe you will have an application that has more than one page, then it is good to make sure you have a default page that whenever you run this application, that will be the first page to be displayed on your users end. So this is where now you can modify that. So you can simply change and modify it based on your needs. So this is a manifest XML file, and again at the below here we have the Kotlin. So this, as the name suggests, this store files for the backend or for Kotlin language. So this is where I'll be writing. So in case you have just closed it by mistake, okay, let me just extend this a little bit and also close this as well and close that as well. So in case by any chance you have closed your Kotlin file, you can find it within the Kotlin directory. You go to the first option here and then you'll be able to locate this. So this is where I'll be writing our backend code. Anything related to code, any logic, everything will be written on this file, and it will be in Kotlin language. So we'll modify some of the things you may not need or use. So you like view compact is not necessary for this. You may go ahead and simply get rid of it. It has no any effect, but yeah, at least to remove those irrelevant parts of the code. They are not mandatory. You don't need them right now. So like I said, for now we'll be not using Kotlin, but for the meantime or within this series, we may need or develop some applications that will need a backend, and this is where we'll be writing our backend code. The next thing we need to know about this folder or this panel here, we have the resource folder or the resource directory. Resource directory contain directories such as drawable, layout, bitmap, value, and XML. So for drawable, simply it is store any image, any icon, any XML file that we need to design our application. So any design, anything, any resources that we'll need to design or to come up with our interface or our design part, will be using or store those files inside the drawable. Again, for this, what we call the XML, we'll be designing our file or our XML where we have an activity main, this part here. So this is where we'll have multiple pages. As I said, you may have an application that contain 3 or 4 pages. So all those pages will be stored within the directory layout. So by any chance if you close this, and you need to open it, you simply find it within your layout. So you simply locate it and you double click and you will able to interact with it. Another directory is the bitmap. This is simply used to store our application icons or image. So for now we have a default icon. If you open this is our icon, and if you remember very well, we have this, we had this icon within our manifest folder. So this is the icon here. So simply it is store those information about our application. So we may alter this or we may modify this based on what we want. If we're creating a simple calculator, we need to have an image for calculator so that users may understand this when they install that application in their phones. So you'll need an image that will show what exactly the application is for. So you need to have that image, and those image will be stored here, and then manifest the XML file will able to locate the file and display, or display it in the user. And so, and again another directory is the value directory. This contains the theme, the default theme for our applications. So we'll be interacting with this part again. So we may need to make some changes, such as the style for application. Most of the time when you are designing something like button, they have the default color, exactly default color. You may need to alter that color, so you'll need to change these settings here. So again, we have another string XML. On string XML here, we'll simply store on these colors XML. We simply store colors as the name suggests. This will be, I will be storing some of the colors that you may need to use in your Android. So if you want to design something like an application, maybe a weather application, a logging application page, you may need to have different color, or you may need to design it based on your interest. So we will have to store these colors here within the colors XML, and you may need to use them or call them during your designing. Again, we have string, again as the name suggests. As you can see here, the series 1, this is the application name. This is the application name for our app. In case in future you may need to change this, you will simply you can change it here and name something else. Maybe for now you have named just a name, and then later you realize this name is not looking good, it's not good, it's not even related to what I built. You can just come here and make modification for your name. So, and again, other things like if you have a button named maybe logging, you can have that text stored in this string resource file, and then you can use it in your design. So that is it for this part of values, and the last part is the XML files. Don't bother about this file, you will see it in future, but right now most of the time we will not even touch that file. And the same as the Gradle script for this is a setting application, so most of the time we may or may not touch this file, but there is higher probability that we may not, unless we are interacting with backend. Sometimes we may need to implement or add some dependency within our application, like we are building a calculator, we may need to add a library or a dependency for calculation. So you'll need to install those dependency. You can come within the module application, and within the module application you can see at the very top, at the very bottom here, this is where you can install your dependency. Also, you may need to change your compile SDK. You may, maybe if your SDK compile SDK is lower and Android is asking you to modify it, at least you may come here to modify it, but for now don't mind about all this file. Minimum SDK, at the very first you will see we had 24, we chose API 24 because we realize, or we notice, it will cover almost 98.6% of users. So that's all for this side or this panel. So we can close all these tabs, and the next thing I need to show you is, let's open this on the app folder resource on the layout, and then let's open this layout. So this is where I was talking about this part. This part has been splitted into 3. So we have this designing. So this is where you can use drag and drop. So for now I can click this and delete. I can delete this that that way. So if you may need, some of us maybe want to develop the application based on drag and drop. By that I mean you can design your app by dragging and drop components within this design. So for the next video I'll be interacting with this part. I don't want to make this video too long, it will be boring, and let's proceed from the next video. Let's proceed from here, and then we will able to interact with this part, and then we will start our Hello application. So let's see you, let me see you in the next video. So it's goodbye, see you later.